Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing a quick follow-up review of a pen from Ensso. Now, I looked at this pen a few months ago, pre its launch. So this was a pen that was on a Kickstarter, and I was able to look at it before the Kickstarter ended to show it to you. And now I've been using it for a couple of months, and I wanted to do a sort of more longer term review, shall we say. So, the pen is the Bolt, and this is their retractable bolt action fountain pen made from grade 5 titanium. It takes a standard converter, and one is provided. It's made, as I said, it's made from titanium, and it's got a bolt action, so it is retractable. You can see that there, the nib pops out, activated by that bolt mechanism. It's very cool. This is a pen system, or a clicker system, if you will, that is used a lot in ballpoint pens. So this is the first bolt action or true bolt action fountain pen that I have seen. So I did a first impressions video of this pen a few months ago. And that is on my channel. You can go check that out. I'll link to it down below. That gives a whole lot of information about the pen. I'll cover some of that again today, but what I really wanted to do is just talk about it after having used it for, a slightly longer period of time. That was the first impressions, was literally my first inking of the pen. I've now been using it, as I said, for a couple of months. So let's start talking about it. First thing I want to say is that I love the Ensso packaging. It's simple. There's no fancy boxes. There's no big fancy, booklets and all of that kind of stuff. They're simple. They're minimalist. They're making pens for you to use, not for you to store nicely on your shelf. Okay, so as I said, this pen started on Kickstarter, and that finished in, I think it was February. Ensso have said there may be a couple of small changes to things like some of the quality, the finishing and stuff like that on the pen, and they will make the nib sizes available. I'm still not sure what nib size I have. It's somewhere between a fine and a medium in terms of how it writes on the page. But this is the general sort of version of the pen. When it was on Kickstarter, it retailed for $84 you could buy in, which was 40% off the full retail price of $140. So I think that was a great deal. That was US. So you could get it for around the 125 Australian dollar mark. It's now obviously going to be more than that. Now the Kickstarter has finished, and I'm hoping to launch this video around the same time as the pen goes public. Available on the website. So at this stage, the price isn't on the website or confirmed. So that's just what it's going to be. So on the top of the pen is that little disc now, or little slot, in the disc, and that can unscrew and allow you to take apart this bolt mechanism. It's a very simple mechanism. You just unscrew the crown of it there. And then once that top is taken out, you can then take the bolt action out if you needed to do some maintenance or whatever, you might want to do, even if you're a fiddler or a tinkerer, that kind of stuff. It's a really great pen for that. The barrel of the pen is completely smooth and straight down. It's a slightly brushed titanium, which I like a lot. And then the nose cone unscrews here, and this is where we get the guts of the pen. And this is the real nuts and bolts, if you will. The spring to activate that bolt, and then we get the cartridge converter here and the nib and feed. Now, as I said in the original video, this is a nib that is used on a number of other pens from brands that make these sorts of pens. It's a fine, good quality nib. I enjoy how it writes a lot. You can see it's covered in ink there, and I'll come back to that in a bit. And then the converter just simply clicks into the back there, and then the spring sits over that, and as you activate the bolt, that moves around. In the nose cone here is a second piece that unscrews with a little bit of effort. And in there is a silicone disc with a little X cut into it. Now it's just showing up here on the camera, so I hope you can see that. That X is where the nib goes through as it protrudes out the pen. So it's a very simple way of keeping the nib wet, because it's sort of relatively airtight once those flaps fold back in. That section will be replaceable, which is great because silicone doesn't have an infinite lifespan. It's really great, and they tested the pen for over a year. I've not had any issues, and I have found this pen to be very consistent and right, almost first time every time for the entire time I've been using this pen. And I've got to say, this pen has been inked up from the day I got it. Other than when I have cleaned it a couple of times, it has been inked up since the day I got it. I really, really enjoy it. But it's a simple system. It's a very clever system. It's the first to use a lot of these kinds of elements in a retractable fountain pen, or a fountain pen of any kind, mind you. And I think they've done a really, really great job of making a simple, elegant fountain pen that is A, retractable, and B, uses a fun system like that bolt. Now, as you can see, at this stage, when the nib is out there, the bolt is around the back. You can simply turn that nib around in the body. It's not held in place other than by the spring, and you will find it will move around as you click the pen on and off occasionally, things like that. But it's very easily moved. But one thing I have found is that I haven't bothered about where the bolt actually is that often, because the length of the pen puts it past the back of my hand, so it's never in the way. If you are slightly OCD, or sensitive to these kinds of things like I am, you can very easily move it so the bolt is facing up. I just haven't necessarily always found the need to do that. Now, I did a size comparison in my first impressions video with the Lamy Safari and with the Pilot Vanishing Point. I'm just going to show it alongside the Safari here this time. So you can, as I said, you can go back and watch that original video that has all the details, information, all that kind of stuff in it, a little bit more. I just wanted to show it again today and talk about it after having used it for a longer period of time. So you can see it's slightly shorter here than the capped Lamy Safari, but this isn't the writing form of either of those pens. And then we uncap it, and I will put the nib out now so that we see the length. And you can see it's longer there than the uncapped or the unposted Lamy Safari. And then the fully capped posted Lamy Safari is longer. This is an okay length pen. It actually feels very comfortable in the hand. It's a nice length. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. They've really found a really nice sort of Goldilocks zone with the Ensso Bolt retractable fountain pen here. So let's quickly talk about those dimensions. It's 131 millimeters when the nib is retracted. So it's an okay sort of length. It fits in most pen cases. There isn't a clip or anything, so just keep that in mind. Then when the nib is out, it's 139. So you gain a few extra millimeters there. Obviously, there is no cap, so there's no posted length of this pen. Around the body, which is where you hold it, regardless of where you hold it, it is 9.6 millimeters, and the pen weighs 23 grams. Now, one question I got a lot on that original video and some of my original posting is the balance of this pen. Because it is a bolt action pen, and a lot of ballpoint bolt action pens are very back weighted, I don't find that with this. This is a very light pen. If we sort of do a balance check of where the balance point of this pen is, you can see it's right around the middle of the pen. So when you're holding it, all that majority of that weight is sitting in the webbing or in the fingers of your hand. It's not super back weighted. So good to know that they've got the balance right using grade 5 titanium, which is quite a light material in a lot of ways, and not putting sort of too much weight back there in the bolt mechanism itself. Okay, we'll do another little writing sample. As I said, I did a full writing sample in my original video, but we've got here the Ensso Bolt, and this is a bolt action retractable fountain pen. As I said, I'm not entirely sure what nib size this is. It's either a fine or a medium. That's what was going to be readily available. I'm leaning towards fine, but I'm not exactly sure. It is a steel nib, and the ink in this today is Waterman. Serenity Blue. This pen loves this ink. Most pens do. This is one of the reasons why a lot of us use Waterman Serenity Blue when we're doing reviews. Firstly, it's very readily available. Lots of people know it. But also, pens, generally speaking, enjoy this ink. But what I can honestly say is that I haven't found an ink, and this is the third ink I've had in this pen. So of the 3 inks I've had in this pen, all of them have been really great with this pen. Okay, you can see it writes smooth, like under no pressure. It's still writing pretty consistently. It's wet, well, wet enough. It's not the wettest ink, and it's still got a nice flow. Reverse writing is actually really nice, and it definitely, that was me not lining the nib up. It definitely sort of handles a lot of faster writing as well. So let's talk about some pros and cons here of the Ensso Bolt Fountain Pen. Well, I'm going to start with the cons. One is theoretical, and that is the longevity of that silicone disc. Now, obviously with use, it could sort of start to tear or fray. That is highly likely just because it is silicone, and parts, and those little flaps are opening up every time you click the pen. So there may be some wear and tear there, but it is available as a replacement part, or will be available as a replacement part, and it was tested for over a year before use. So it has shown some good signs, and I have no issues with it in terms of drying up or anything like that. You would have seen that the nib had a lot of ink on it. Now, that is just because ink gets on that silicone disc. Every time you push the pen through, it rubs against the feed and the nib and all of that, and that then ends up on the nib. Of course it does. Very easy to clean that, but it's going to happen repeatedly, so I've stopped bothering to clean it. I've not had any ink dripping through it or leaking into my pocket when I have carried this pen. My only other issue is the fact that, and I think I mentioned this in the original video, is because there's no clip, it doesn't need a roll stop because it's got that bolt. It's not going to go anywhere at all. It doesn't have a clip. And so when you're putting it into things like pen cases or elastic, with elastic loops, you've got nowhere to really grip it onto. And also when you're putting it in your pocket, it sort of sits loose in your pocket. And for a retractable fountain pen, which is designed to be convenient and on the go, not being able to carry this securely in a pocket does pose a bit of a question to me. So I've taken this in a pen sleeve. It just gives me bizarrely a little bit more security, but also do you store this nib down or nib up? That is a question, if it's nib down, if I'm using a Lamy Safari and I put it into a pen cup, I'm storing it nib up. In my pocket, it's nib up. Nib up with this puts the bolt at the end, and if it catches, is it going to push the nib out? It's not going to engage necessarily, because that actually takes a little bit more effort, but is it going to be pushing the nib out in my pocket? I don't know. So I actually carried this nib down in a pen sleeve. As I said, I didn't have any issues with ink leaking out or anything like that, but it's definitely something to be aware of. Now, lots and lots of pros. Firstly, the bolt action is a great, unique system for a fountain pen. I enjoy it a heck of a lot, and it's a nice, smooth action as well. It feels good, and it's a lot of fun. I find myself just playing with it a lot, which I probably shouldn't do, seeing as though, as I said, that silicone disc there opening probably gets wear and tear every time I do that. But I love the build quality. I love this material. I like the weight of it. It's really nice. I like the fact that you can dismantle the pen for cleaning and maintenance, and I've taken it apart completely a number of times just for the fun of it. I really like the nib. It's reliable. It never really stops. I've not had any issues with ink starvation or anything like that. Whenever I've opened it up, it's been there ready to go. No drying out or anything like that. So I'm really, really impressed with this Ensso Bolt Fountain Pen. I think they've done an amazing job. I'm looking forward to seeing where they take this model, different materials. Will there be an Ultim one? All those kinds of things. Different, anodized aluminiums, all that. I think it's a really great pen model that deserves a place in the market. And I think it asks a lot of questions to other manufacturers as well. And at this price point, around the $140 mark at full price, it's a good offering because it's made from great material, it's well made, and it's, as I said, a unique system. So a big thank you to Ensso for sending this out as a prototype pre the launch on Kickstarter. I just wanted to show it, as I said, in a slightly longer term review. So thank you for watching, like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support the channel, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.